Hello and welcome to M&A Murders and Accusations, the good, the bad, and the ugly of selling your business. We dig into what you need to know and how not to kill the sell of your business. Now here's our host, Rick J. Krebs, Mergers and Acquisitions Advisor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to M&A Murders and Accusations, the good, the bad, and the ugly of selling your business. This is Rick J. Krebs coming to you from the mountains of Utah, your M&A cowboy, and I'm really excited about our guest today. We have an expert in selling businesses. His name is Scott Duke. He is the founder and owner of a company called Open Road out of Canada. And he does what I do. He sells businesses, but Scott and I met at an EPI summit, that's Exit Planning Institute Summit, about a year and a half ago. We became friends and we help each other out. But I'm so excited to gain insight from Scott about his process, about the M&A world, about selling companies and in Canada and how it's working. So first of all, Scott, welcome.
Rick, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, for the audience, we have lots of background. So we've been collaborating here for probably getting close to 2 years, just on different deals, brainstorming, helping to get things across the finish line. I'm happy to be here on the podcast and also always happy for your advice too.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that. So first of all, I like to get to know the guest personally so the listeners can get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to start Open Road and selling businesses.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So quick background. I came from the streets. I say I came from the streets because I've had a hot dog cart before, which people usually resonate with because it really sets you as a gritty entrepreneur, but I'm very much entrepreneur. So I've had 11 companies. Most of them have been small. And for the people may not know this, but 95% of businesses do under $1 million a year in revenue. And so if you're a business owner, you're very likely doing under $1 million in revenue, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so that's where I came from. And so I did a lot of trying to figure out how to sell my own companies when it came time to exit them, failed at some, succeeded at others. And then one of the companies we built, when I moved to where I currently live right now, and I'm a Canadian, but I live in British Columbia, Canada. When I moved to the current location that I'm at, I bought a property management company here. And then we scaled that property management company over 7 years, myself and my wife. And then we sold it to a private equity firm that's actually in your neck of the woods called Western Trust. So that's how I really got into the M&A space, was doing my own transaction. I find that people will come to M&A that way. They'll sell their own business and maybe think of it as a career path afterwards. Or they'll come from the financial side of things. I work for a major banking institution and come a different route, I call it like top down, right? And I'm the streets bottom up. But that's how I got to this space. And it's a great spot to be and help people do what I did.
I love it. Hot dog stand. I didn't know that before, Scott.
Yeah. So it's called Duke's Dogs. That's
Duke's Dogs.
Yeah. And it was a weird one because it wasn't like, that's maybe how you should start your entrepreneurial journey. But for me, it was actually a transition between businesses. So we ran the world's largest wakeboard facility. It was in Canada, but the largest one in North America, which makes it the largest period. That was a 5-year journey, and then it ended. And then what do you do in between while you're kind of bridging the gap between the next business that you're going to start? And so that's what I did. And to be honest with you, it was a really nice time in my life because it's really low stress. Like cooking hot dogs is pretty easy compared to having teams of 50, right?
So I love that story, and I love your background because I think for business owners looking to sell, you've been in their shoes. You know what it's like. You've sold your businesses. You know what it's like to sell your baby, and that resonates with business owners, and it resonates with me because you felt that you've been there. It's one thing to work with an advisor who has never sold a business before. And it's another thing to work with an advisor who's sold multiple businesses and knows things from the seller's perspective, not just the transaction perspective, but the seller's perspective. And I think that enables you, I think your skill set is unique, and it enables you to really relate with the business owners. As you're helping them sell, you can say, you know what, been there, done that. I mean, that's such a great thing. And I love your experience and I love your stories.
I'm just going to say, been there, done that, but it allows you to, one of the hard things when we're selling our businesses as business owners is it's really hard to get out of your own frame. So I can be in the shoes of the seller, like knowing what it feels like on the sell side, but to be successful when you sell your business, and they're selling it and there's being really successful selling it. I'm talking more about the latter, but to really kind of knock it out of the park, you need to understand the buyer's frame. And so that's it. I can come with the seller's frame for sure, but that's one thing that yourself and myself can bring to the table is really the buyer's frame. And if you know that, that's kind of having the keys to the kingdom, right? It gives you the back end and it gives you a bit of a competitive advantage. So you want both. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love your experience because you have the seller side and the buyer side now. Mm-hmm. So I always ask listeners, tell us something cool about yourself that people probably don't know.
I don't know. I'm a weird duck, but I think everybody is, to be honest with you. Like I just spent $150 buying a whole bunch of like old ski gear, like that someone was selling on Facebook Marketplace. But like I am a diehard ski bum. It's like why I live here. I live in a ski town in Ontario or in BC, sorry. And this is like my whole team lives here. And I have a rope tow in my backyard that I built for my daughter, which I built in Canada. There's a chain. I don't know if it's in the US actually called Princess Auto. Do you guys have Princess Auto in the US?
Not that I know of.
Anyway, it's like a mecca for people that are like handy and want to build stuff that like fuse technology to like anything with a gear, basically. Like if you're an engineer mindset, then this place is just like you could live all day in it. And so everything I built this rope tow like out of stuff from Princess Auto. So it has a controller. Actually, I had to order a controller for a CNC machine from China to like get it to run. But the kids can go down and just basically essentially press one button and like up it goes. And people don't know that about me. Many people don't know that live like why would a guy build one of those? I have no idea, but it's like certainly fun for the kids.
That's really cool. And for those that don't have the video, you can see Scott in his background. He lives up in the mountains, as do I, and loves to ski. Well, thank you. So let's talk business. Open Road. So why did you start Open Road?
Yeah, that's okay. Like I actually have an answer to that, but it may be a little bit long-winded. Let me do the short version. So
you have plenty of time. Go ahead.
There's some triggering point I find for like all entrepreneurs that they decide they want to start a company. Everybody that owns a company that's listening to this can probably connect the dots back to that exact moment in their life. And for me, I was living in this area running this. Well, I wasn't running my painting company yet, but I was living in this area and hanging out with a bunch of people that their parents, because now I'm going back to when I'm like 16, their parents were all well-to-do. And so I was in this environment and I came from kind of the middle, like upper middle class in zone. So you're not really connecting on a day-to-day basis with people that are making millions of dollars a year. And then I ended up getting into this environment where I was connecting with a lot of kids that their parents were making those kind of dollars. And I can remember the exact night when I thought, hey, listen, I should ask these parents what they all do. And every single one of them, when I was in my whole peer group at that time, like all of their parents, I asked them and they all own their own companies. And I was curious about it. Like, what does your company do? Like, what is it? An architecture firm, a tech firm, like all sorts of stuff. But the one consistent thing across the board was that they all owned companies. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to own a company. Like, this is just what I thought. Like, that was the one data point. It's like, I need to own a business. I did not know at the time that owning a business does not equate to making millions of dollars. Like, there's a lot more steps in the road along the journey, right? So that's what started me out, though. Like, okay, I'm going to go start my own company. And it was really just the desire, which is probably similar to all people. It's like to have what I did not have. And this is the best vehicle to get to that place. And then so you start this entrepreneurial journey, and it's a brutal one. Like, it's ruthless, right? But along the road, you pick some stuff up, and then, okay, fine, you want to like get rid of your first company to start your next company because you feel like the other vehicle is better. And by the way, it probably isn't, but you think at the time it is. So then you start this next vehicle. And the first business that I really should have sold is that wakeboard camp that I was telling you about. And it was of substantial scale at the time. Like, for someone in their 20s, certainly it was a pretty decent sized company. I did not sell that because it was painfully owner dependent. Like, it was John Warlow's like number one thing. It's like, all right, you're the hub in the spoke. And like, so you probably don't have a sellable asset. That was painful. That whole journey of like just shutting a business down was super painful. And that's probably what really was the impetus to start myself on this career. It's like, okay, how can I solve this for myself first of all? How can I build the next thing and make sure that it's a sellable asset? And I had my hot dog cart in between, but then after that, I started a radio station. And then so I built transferability into that. And that radio station's been running now for 12 years, broadcasting every day, 24/7. It's crazy. But that station, I specifically am like, how can I build something that can live beyond me? And so that one wasn't a big business, but it had the characteristics of a big business to, get beyond the founder. And so I did that. And the property management company was the next project where I really wanted to, okay, can I do that again, but then also do it where I get a decent exit and make some money at the end of it. So that was that experiment. And so it's just all I'm trying to do is, just get shorten the curve for people. So they maybe don't have to go through the few pain points to get to the understanding like X, Y, and Z needs to be done to have a sellable asset. That's what got me into the space. Pain and failure got me here.
Wow. And you don't want other people to have the same pain and failure, right? So we're going to get into the process a little bit because you have a very unique process. And I think you bring tremendous value to the transactions that you work on. But first of all, what size of businesses do you typically sell?
People speak in this world of EBITDA. And so depending on listener, if they know what that acronym is, doesn't matter if you do or if you don't, but it's just think of it as earnings, right? So we'll work with companies that have earnings of $500,000 up to $3 million. So from revenue, because owners think about revenue oftentimes. So revenue, we kind of cap out at that $40 million mark. All that being said, this morning I was working with one that was 80, but our sweet spot is working with people that are under 40 million.
Gotcha. And EBITDA, for those that don't know, it's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. And one of the things that Scott does that I really like is they recast the EBITDA. So when you do your tax returns, you hire a CPA, hire a tax guy to minimize it, right? You're looking for deductions. But the value proposition is the exact opposite. So can you elaborate on that, how you recast EBITDA?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, like anyone listening, Rick does this work as well. Like people can just take from us what needs to be done in a transaction. But you want to find out the true benefit of your company's earning potential. And your financial statements don't really tell you that. They tell you what you're going to pay in taxes at the end of the year. And your account's incentivized by getting that number lower so that you pay less in taxes. And this makes sense. And this is, by the way, what everybody should be doing as they run their companies until the moment when they're thinking about selling it. But when you're going to sell your business, you want to be able to project to this buyer what the true earning potential of your company is. So that's an exercise that some valuation experts will do, some accountants can do, but certainly every single M&A advisor is going to do to determine, okay, what's the true earning potential of this business? And that's what EBIT is. It's like there's a lot of stuff that gets recasted out of there. The one this morning, it's like the owner had a pension plan in the company, but the only thing that the pension plan was to pull extra money out for himself. So he's pulling about $200,000 extra a year through the pension plan. Okay, that's fine. That's a tax strategy that particular owner is using. But when you go to sell the company, you definitely want the buyer to know that $200,000 is available for them as cash flow on an annual basis. So that's one example of what normalization would be. You also see stuff where people are charging themselves over, charging themselves under for rent, and you'll see different things, different accounting strategies being used from inventory accounting and that kind of thing from a tax advantageous benefit, but it's not advantageous when you're going to sell your business. And when you're selling your company, you're trying to sell for a multiple, and the multiple is based off what hits the bottom line for the most part. So every dollar that you don't show hitting the bottom line is getting robbed of, 4, 5, 6 times multiple at the end of the day. So that's something that people want to be careful about, and they definitely want a good valuation in the beginning of the process to make sure that they can catch all those things.
So I was doing some valuation for a company the other day, and I call it a lifestyle business. They were running everything through the business. They were running the maid service. They were running the lawn care guy, right? It was great for their taxes because their tax bill was so low. But, when they came to selling it, I'm like, we need to get those out. And so that is so important. I think a lot of and we'll talk about this in a minute, is about moving these business owners from income generation to value creation.
Yeah. And
a lot of what you do is with that as part of the valuation. So talk to me a little bit about your valuation work and your process. So when someone wants to sell their business It's not just, okay, let's just slap it up. Let's get the info and slap it up and tell people about it. Tell us about your process and evaluation work in the beginning.
Yeah, I am a real believer in a proper valuation. Like there's different things, right? So I usually talk to stuff that like recently happened because it's like right there in my mind because it happened today. It's like a business owner that we get a valuation every single year and we have never seen this data. Like, because they're not looking for it. Like people are most valuations that you're getting done are looking, and I'm doing a little bit of a side tangent. I'm not come back to process, but most valuation is just trying to determine, what's your company worth today, so I can, have a shareholder buyout, or I can transfer to a family member, or I just need it for filing purposes. There's a divorce maybe, and you need a number, right? So fine, you need a number. But this is a snapshot in time, and it doesn't give you any value as to how much you could add to that number and what the methods are for adding to it. Looking at your company as a financial asset, like looking at it as a stock. Like you need to think about your company. I'm not saying I come off aggressive. You need to think. You don't need to do anything, by the way. Don't do anything. It's like all good. I just say that this is, if you think about your company as a stock, which it actually is, it's privately held stock. If you think about it as stock, that's the way to start that thinking of, this is a valuable asset that I can sell later and I can trade this stock on the private capital markets. You can't trade it in the public capital markets. Like I'm not in the business of taking businesses public, but I'm in the business of taking businesses to the private capital markets and selling them, right? So your stock on the private capital markets will have a value. And most valuations are not trying to determine that. They aren't trying to look at it that way. And that's where we start the process. It's like, okay, well, if we're going to sell in the future, like 5 or 10 years from now, that's one of the differentiations for us and for you guys in your practice is that we like to look at stuff earlier. Like that comes from the DNA of like being in the exit planning institute. It's like if I can connect with a business owner 5 years before they're selling, there is a 0% chance that I won't make them an extra couple $1 million.
Huge. That's a lot, an extra couple $1 million, right? And
yeah.
So what you're talking about here is not linear growth, it's exponential growth.
That's it. Yeah.
And I love the valuation that you do. I don't think I've seen a valuation as comprehensive as the one that you do, where you really look at the levers that impact value and really get with the business owners. And I would say business owners that engage with you are serious about increasing the value in anticipation of an exit. If they just want to slap something up, yeah, you can help them. But if they've got time on their hands and they'll engage with you in your process, 2 additional $1 million, that's awesome, Scott. That's great.
Yeah, well, it depends on the size of your company. Like even small companies, we run the analysis on it. It's like, no, that's the amount that'll move the needle, even on a small company. And you just need to know what to do. And these are things that they're not mysteries. They're out there, but it takes a lot of digging to find what they are. And it's much nicer when it's consolidated in one spot. It's like, hey, here's everything that you need to do to get out of the gates. But that's maybe where our process differs. And I know that a lot of M&A firms, like people in our space, will take on deals that are the owner wants to sell in the next year, the next 18 months. We're a little bit longer looking than that. And there's some people, I think that and the EPI is all about this. They're all about, build a network around yourself, like be the quarterback for the business owner. But just for the business owner that's listening, it makes the most sense to just really start building a network of people that know what they're talking about. And an hour meeting with somebody, an hour meeting once a year, if that can make an extra $2 million for you, it's certainly worth the investment of time. It's just knowing what you need to do. And then you can just get your team to go and do it. You can do it depending on the size of your company, but it's just having the knowledge and then away you go, right?
Yep. And who do you trust? I think a lot of these business owners, we were in I'm the president of the Utah chapter of Exit Planners, right? And we were in a meeting, we had some business owners there and we asked him, what are your biggest concerns? And the business owner said, Rick, I don't know who I can trust. I'm getting bombarded with information, getting bombarded with people, trying to tell me what to do or what not to do. And he's like, it just boils down to trust. Who can I trust to help me with this transition? They have one chance to get it right? It's a lifetime event and it's their baby. And so you've got to work with someone that you trust, that you feel good about, and someone that's done it before. been down that path, and that's you, Scott. I mean, you've been down this many times with these business owners, helping them,
and yourself. And it's also for people, it's a little bit about dating too. Like you're not gonna, you need to meet a few people. Like that's the end of the day. Like you need to work with meet a couple of advisors, but it's such a big amount of money. It just makes sense to like invest an hour here or there to try and talk to a bunch of different people. Some you like, some you don't like. You'll find the one that works best and go with people that have experience and track record. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't think that people know how valuable an advisor is. Like just yesterday I was on the phone and we were under LOI, right? We're going through due diligence and, in literally a 15-minute phone call, I made a couple suggestions and we put another $25,000 in my owner's pocket.
100%.
Yeah. And you can't really tell people ahead of time, oh, I'm going to be able to put more money in your pocket. You don't know specifically, but as you're going through the transaction, having that knowledge and experience to be able to maneuver through I want to call it a shark tank.
Yeah.
And not get eaten alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And also having the right bait, it's right.
Yeah.
But I don't, it doesn't even, outside of our industry, it doesn't even matter. It's like, you want to talk to people that have been in the space for 25, 30 years doing stuff. Like I'm trying to eat better. Fine. Everyone should be trying to eat better, I guess, right? Like continue trying to get better. And so I hired a nutritionist that's been doing this for 22. I think she's been doing this. That's her career. So can you just come to my house? And it's not expensive. I think it was maybe $600. I'm like, can you come to my house and just look through every single cabinet that I have and tell me about how, because that's the best way for them to see how I'm eating. It's like, just come here, look at the food that's in my cupboard and my fridge. This is what I make my meals out of, and just tell me what I'm doing wrong. And that was an 1.5-hour experiment, and it changes the course of how you eat your life moving forward, because now you have the information, and that 22 years of knowledge I get in an 1.5 hours. Yeah. That was so I eat better. Like, this is your company. Like, it's probably more important, right?
Was there anything left in your fridge, in your pantry?
Actually, and you can find this stuff on YouTube too. It's like, it really just consolidates down to, if it is in the outside of the grocery store, it's actually like grew in the ground, if it grew in dirt, then it's good. If it's in a package and it came from a factory at some point, it's bad. Like, that alone just does everything pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. They also think anyway, well, that's a complete tangent. We could do a whole nother podcast.
We could do a whole nother episode. Let's apply that to business owners looking to sell.
Yeah.
What are some of the mistakes that you see them own, or maybe mistakes that you see them do, or misconceptions which they have about selling?
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't it's not even mistakes. It's like, these are just things like here's the mistakes I made. It's like, 'cause that's probably the easiest way. It's like, I'm not blaming anyone else for these mistakes. Like, I literally did these mistakes.
You lived them.
Okay. You aren't delegating enough. I can guarantee that's one of the things. It's like, and why you're not delegating? Because you don't have the framework in your business to properly delegate. So you can't hand stuff off. So your business is mostly dependent on you, which then makes it unsellable. So that's the biggest mistake. I would say that's probably the biggest one. And then if you want to go like right into the weeds, where someone's like, that one I know. Here's one that is being made, and most owners make, that is right down in the dirt. You are probably not managing. I should say I'm not managing, just so people don't feel like it's an attack on them. It's like, I didn't manage my accounts receivable well enough so that I had a smaller amount of working capital required in my business. And then what that does when you go to sell, there's always going to be a working capital calculation in your business. If you've done a bad job managing your working capital over the last 12 months, then your working capital requirements in your business will be higher. And because of that, it's like, now you don't get as much cash at close, because there needs to be a certain amount of working capital in your business that comes included with it. And if your business needs 100K working capital, you made more money. If your business needs 500K working capital, you made less money. So that's an easy way to pick up some money off the table, is just do a better job of collecting on your AR. And too many of these I've learned the hard way. So there you go. That one's like right in there.
Already owed the money, right? You already done the work. You're owed the money. Just be more aggressive about collecting on, or even a little discount, right? If you offer them a small discount, let's say it swings the needle $500,000 at the sale.
Yep.
It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
The other thing I see is, were they leaving too much cash in the business?
Yeah.
too much AR, leaving too much AR and too much cash. They like to have excess cash in there for a rainy day, but the buyers see that and then they want that, and they give it up at the closing, or it becomes a negotiation point and sometimes a point of contention.
That's a good one to avoid, because it does give us comfort when we're running our business. And by the way, it's like, you can, when you're running your company just to run it and you don't intend on selling it for 10 years, do what makes you happy. It's like, why not? Right? If having the cash in the bank account makes you comfortable at night, then it's worth having the bank and having the cash in the bank account. But when you're going to sell and thinking about selling, you need to use different strategies. That's all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an entirely different MO if you're running the business to sell it versus running the business just to run it.
Yep.
And I think helping business owners understand that and that mindset. I'm going to share a really sad story with you. I met some business owners the other day, and we ran a valuation and we looked at it. And, I'm looking at a guy probably in his early 60s and his wife in his early 60s, and they literally work 12, 14 hours a day. And, so their bodies are worn out, but we're looking at the valuation price and it's like, you know what, it's not going to be high enough. It's not going to get us where we need to be.
Yeah.
And I went out of that appointment. I was so sad. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sad for these people, because what they did is every time there was an issue or problem, they worked harder.
Yeah.
And they attacked the problem. They dove into it and just, that's all they knew. And so I think what you're talking about with your process and with your valuation and hiring the right advisor to help, it's all about working smarter and exponentially increasing that number so you have a better retirement in the future. It's so important. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of teared up. I'm sad thinking about this poor couple, because what are they going to do? Time is not on their side, and their bodies are worn out and they're broke down, and and they need to sell, and it's not going to be enough. I mean, you don't want to do that. You don't want to approach the sale with the idea of, I'm going to cross my fingers and close my eyes and hope that it's going to be high enough.
Yeah.
Like we joke, but that's the worst thing in the world. I think that's the worst part of our job when we have those scenarios.
Yeah, and it's a reality, right? It's like it's no different from the doctor having to tell the patient that they have an incurable illness, right? The nice thing about business ownership is that we can tell people you have a curable illness. You have a little bit of an illness right now, but it's fixable, and like X, Y, and Z can be done to it. The more time you have, this stuff just takes time. Like that's the issue, right? It's like if I'm thinking about taking myself out of my business, it's probably going to take, well, I've done it. It took me from consciously thinking, it's like, all right, I do not want to be day to day in this company anymore. All I really want to do is like run the morning meeting and look at the financials that get delivered to me on a monthly basis, right? That's what I want my role to be. From thinking that to having that actually be a reality was a 2.5 year project. So I don't know if, I'm sure it can be done faster. There's definitely people out there that have a heck of a lot more skill set than me and can probably run it faster. But this stuff just takes time, right? Because there's many things to do. And then you have the emotional element of humans in it, and maybe to do no hiring, maybe you have to let people go to make that happen. Maybe you need to promote people and give them more skill. And maybe it's like that you need to put a system in so that reporting can get to you, all sorts of stuff, right? And I think maybe the tragedy, and like just going back to thinking about the part of my life when I have these meetings with people, I'm like, and it's a little bit deflating, is that if you don't want to do the work, then you don't get the reward. And I'll just like, sometimes I have the meeting, I'm like, oh, this person's not going to be able to do the work, right? And it's too bad. But that's, and what I can't do everything for, like, I can't go do the work for them. Let's say I can't, what do the gym trainers say? It's like, I can't do your push-ups. So then what happens is you end up being in the owner trap. And the owner trap is, I have built that tool that we'll use and like show people, and it's like the wealth gap or the owner trap. People use different names for it, but I like the owner trap because it's like, if you're the 65-year-old person they were just talking about, and you aren't going to be able to sell your company for enough to continue living your current lifestyle, then your only option is to continue running your company until you get close enough to the end that, all right, well, we've got 10 years left of life. So the number that we're selling our business for is going to cover us for those 10 years. It actually traps you, where the way to get out of the owner trap is to have a company that's a valuable enough asset that when you sell it, funds from that company invested into a portfolio give you the exact same amount of money you're earning from your company today. That's the break free of the owner trap. Because if I do nothing and make the same amount of money that I'm making running my company, I can choose when I want to leave. I can choose today I don't want to run anymore. Because by the way, running the company is actually a good thing to a certain point. Like I need to have something to do. I need to have something to work on. I need to have something to build. Like you want to help other people grow their careers. Like this is why having a company is great. But you also want to have the ability at one point to be, okay, now I'm done. And you want to be able to turn it off and still live the same lifestyle.
And retire, right? At some point in time, they want to retire. I sure appreciate your time today, Scott. And it is great to speak to you. Anyone selling a business in Canada, Scott Duke is your man with Open Road. And I'm going to give that endorsement because Scott knows what he's doing. I mean, he's done this many times. And how do people get in touch with you, Scott? Tell us how they would do that.
Yeah. They can type my name into Google if they want. That'll do it. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere that you need to be, all the channels, but Open Road's our company. So if you type in Open Road to Google, it's OPN Road, but even if you type in Open Road M&A or Open Road Business Sales, you'll get there. And my time, I will be gracious with my time to help people out that are wanting to have that life-changing event.
Right. And what's your website?
Openroad.io. So the IO is the tech side of things because we're hip.
Got it. All right. I love that. Don't fall in the owner trap. I absolutely love it. Moving these businesses and moving their value from a linear increase to an exponential increase in value by working with Scott Duke. Thanks again and have a great day. And thank you for tuning in to M&A Murders and Accusations. Have a great day.
Thank you for attending our podcast. We invite you to join us for future episodes of M&A, Murders and Accusations, the good, the bad, and the ugly of selling your business. You can also visit us at www.bsalesgroup.com or email Rick directly at rick@bsalesgroup.com.